Hey book nerds, I'm Sarah Ella, and today I am bringing you my second episode of Past the Pages. Past the Pages is a series of videos in which I talk about my writing journey, some behind the scenes stuff in the publishing world now that I'm going to be a published author. You guys have been great submitting me questions, talking about your writing journey in the comments with me, and some of you have even privately messaged me and asked me questions. I love the support, I love your enthusiasm, thank you guys so much. Quite a few of you have been wondering, how do you go from idea to finished novel? How do you finish? How do you stick with it? That is one of the hardest things. I struggle with it. Everybody's process is different, and I cannot say this enough. You will probably hear me say this in every video. If your process is not the same as mine, do not feel like you're doing something wrong. Do not quit, do not give up. But this is what I do. When I have an idea, I write it down. I highly encourage you to keep some kind of notebook, some kind of way to record your ideas. If you are struggling to come up with a good idea, this is something I learned in a Writer's Digest seminar given by an agent named Holly Root, who is a great agent. She represents some fabulous authors. She talked about setting a timer, sitting down with a piece of paper, and coming up with as many high concept ideas as you can. What's a high concept? It is the kind of thing where you hear The Hunger Games meets Cinder, or Once Upon a Time meets Star Trek. Those are probably not great ideas. Those are the ones that just came out of my head just now. But those are high concept. Basically, putting two things or more together to create something new. Sit down, set a timer. If you're struggling with what to write about, what kind of idea to write a novel on, try doing that. Try sitting down, timing yourself. After that 10 minutes is over, your timer goes off. Look at how many ideas you wrote down. Maybe you have your next great novel idea. Write about what you love. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, well, I want to write this, but it's already been written. You know what? No, it hasn't. Nobody can write the story that you do. Nobody can write it. Even if it's similar to somebody else's, it's still your story, and you have a unique voice, and you can make it your own. So I would encourage you, if you feel like your idea is not new, write it anyway and see what you come up with. Once I have my idea, I do something that a lot of people would probably advise against, but again, everybody's process is different, and I just start writing. I do not outline first. I have lots and lots of notes. I'm going to show you my notes. Here's my notebook from my first novel. Look at all of, there's just notes, things that don't even, timelines, family trees, things that do not even exist in my novel today. This time travel idea, these 2 pages of notes, time travel ideas, something that does not exist in my book that I was taking notes on. The point is that, like I said before, you need to keep a notebook. I do not outline. I outline as I go. I have ideas, I have my character names, I usually have the end scene in my mind. I know exactly where I want my book to go, and somehow it gets there, but it's not always the way I imagined it would get there, if that makes sense. The journey is kind of a discovery experience to me. The other thing I do that a lot of people will say, don't do that, don't do that. I edit as I go. After I write a chapter, I go right back through that chapter and read it 2, 3, 4 times and revise. The thing that I struggled with for so long, and the reason it took me what I felt like was a really long time to finally get a completed manuscript at 100,000 words, was that I felt like I was doing something wrong. I would try to get through writing my book without editing. And every time that I would do that, I would stop, I would get blocked. I got all the way to 29,000 words at one point, and the story just wasn't working. And that was when I was doing it the way I was told to do it instead of the way that worked for me. What I do is I edit as I go. This is the only way, the only time that I've ever finished a novel, which is my first novel, was editing as I go. It keeps the story fresh in my brain for me. It helps me really know what happened in the last chapters so I don't forget, and it makes me feel like I can move on, because I hate messes. I cannot stand first drafts. I am a writer who does not like to write. I like to edit. I like to revise. I call it putting the frosting on the cake. By doing that, as I am writing the first draft. That helps me feel like I've got something clean that I'm leaving behind and I can move on to the next chapter. If you are struggling because you are told to just write the whole thing, get the words down, don't edit as you go, if that's not working for you, try editing as you go and see how far you get. Once I do that, I go back through again and I start outlining. If you have not used the snowflake method, it's a great way to start and to grow a novel idea, but the snowflake program, which you can download, is also a great way to keep track of things like scenes and point of views and character profiles. I will put a link to that below because I absolutely love it. It is what I use when I am going back and outlining things. And that is also when I find plot holes. I start to fill in those holes as I go, and each time I fill in a little bit more and a little bit more. I use the track changes and comments in Microsoft Word. I write notes to myself as I'm writing. I will put a little comment, I'll highlight and be like, oh, I need more description here. Or, oh, did I say that earlier? I need to go back and check. And I keep notes throughout my document so that as I go back and revise, those notes are right there in front of my face and I know, okay, I need to check that. I need to check that fact. I need to make sure that if this character's eyes are blue in this scene, they better be blue in the earlier scene, or in this case, as I'm working on my second book, the last book. After everything is kind of polished, I'm pretty sure I've filled in all of those plot holes. That is when my baby, my manuscript, goes to my critique partners. Boy, oh boy, do these girls find things that I never would have found. Now, granted, I have said before on my first novel, I did hire a freelance editor. I feel like deadlines keep me motivated, they keep me accountable. Working with a freelance editor on my first novel helped me keep those tangible deadlines because I had a certain amount of work due to her every week. If you can keep yourself accountable on your own, great. Even if you don't have a critique partner, get an accountability partner. Have your mom or your best friend or your brother tell them, please bug me about this every week. Ask me if I am working on it. Ask me how far I've gotten. Once my critique partners looked at it, they are other authors who know about the craft, who know about the writing process. They've found all of my mistakes and they've given me all their notes. I go back through, fix those mistakes. Usually I find things that they didn't find, that I didn't find the first time through. And then after that, my manuscript goes to my beta readers. And some of my beta readers are other authors, some are not. Some are just people who love this type of genre I write in. Usually that's an encouraging time for me because my beta readers are awesome and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming, and oh my goodness, I love this character. But they also give me really helpful feedback on the things they didn't really like either. After my beta readers have seen it, after my critique partners have seen it, and I am sure and I am positive that everything is as perfect as it can be, that is when, for my first novel, I decided I was ready to start querying, which is when you submit letters and pieces of your work to literary agents, which is what my next video will be on. In this case, as I am now contracted with Thomas Nelson HarperCollins, that is the point, after my beta readers have seen it, that I can finally feel good about turning it into my editor. For me, being a homeschool mom, I really try to give myself a lot of time and wiggle room because I do like to take breaks. I do need those breathers. I try to give myself that time. So I would say about a year. This all happens from beginning of my idea, before it's anything in my computer, to all the way through all my revisions, critique partners, beta readers, to my editor. I hope this has kind of helped you know kind of how I do my process. Again, there is no wrong way. This is just the way that I was able to finally get myself to finish my first novel, and this is the way that works for me. I'd love to hear about your process down in the comments below. And of course, if you have any questions for me that I didn't address in this video regarding finishing or getting started or anything to do with idea to finish novel, please submit them. I'd love to chat with you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy reading.